A Raisin in the Sun, written by Lorraine Haynsberg and published in 1959. A Raisin in the Sun was published by the first African American woman to play on Broadway, explaining the life of a poor African American family living on the south side of Chicago in poverty. This play has gotten a lot of reviews, thoughts, remarks, and even agreements. During the time of the play being published, the film received applause from whites not only for being a Negro play, but for being a universal drama. One review pointed out the role of Mama, who had plans to make a better life for her family. My favorite review that I read said, "What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or does it fester like a sore and then run? Does it sink like a rotten meat, or crust and sugar over it like a syrupy sweet?" During 1959, not only were segregation still in effect, but being a powerless African American family living on the South Side was not easy either. The Younger family wasn't the only African American family experiencing the struggle. Other families faced those problems as well. During the time of the play being published, there was an ongoing fight about integration and assimilation. Even though Chicago is in the north, they still faced division between whites and African Americans in the economy. There's always some type of separation economically, even still until this day. After the play hit Broadway, people were actually shocked. It provided an eye-opening visualization not only for the whites to see how living in segregation and poverty is, but it was a relatable topic for the African Americans living in poverty during that time. This play was considered a domestic drama, but in Lorraine's truth, it was considered a tragedy. In 1959, mourning the loss of her husband and having to set up and execute both roles, Lena Younger, the mother, fulfilled every role needed. The family was going to receive $10,000 in insurance money from the death of her husband, their father. Living in poverty, and after hearing how much the family was going to receive, money was the main focus in the household. They live in a cramped, furniture-crowded apartment in one of the poorest parts of the South Side. It was a nice-looking apartment, but trying to fit 5 people in one apartment was a little bit of a hassle. And not to mention, the family shared a single bathroom with the next-door neighbor. Walter Lee, the youngest son, who doesn't have a job, wanted to invest the money into starting a liquor store. But due to Mama's religious beliefs during this time period, Walter's plan wasn't too bright. There is a lot of frustration in the air due to Ruth, Walter's wife, fainting, and there are chances of her being pregnant. Ruth and Walter didn't really talk this morning, being that Walter's main focus was investing the money into the liquor store. Ruth is a cleaning woman that works for wealthy whites and is having thoughts of getting an abortion due to their living conditions and due to her job. Mama put some money towards Bethina's school expenses, being that she is the only person in the family to ever go to college. Walter felt some type of way because his sister Bethina was the only one getting her education and wants to know why he can't invest in his. Eventually, Mama ended up giving Walter some money, but Walter still insisted to go try and start the business, and one of his business partners took the money from him. Mama finally made the big announcement that she invested a good amount of money into a nice house in an area surrounded by whites and out of poverty. Benita didn't really side with that, being that the location was a risky area to be the only African Americans in the neighborhood. Benita still considered her family as a poor black family, because even though they were moving to a nicer area, that's how they were still going to be treated. A spokesman even came to the youngsters' home to try to convince them not to move into the white community, and that it would be the best to stay where they're at. Mama couldn't help it though. She had to move and do what she thought was best for her family and their living conditions. Later on that day, Miss Johnson, the neighbor, brought a newspaper to the youngster's home that told of a bombing on a black family's home while staying in a white neighborhood. Still determined for a new change and another opportunity, Mama still decided to move regardless, and Ruth decided to keep the child. Mama was my favorite character overall. She reminded me of my mother and myself combined. Mama took care of her family even when times were rough, and she took care of everybody. She stuck by Ruth's side when she was in distress about keeping the child, but Mama told Ruth that when the world gets ugly enough, a woman will do anything for her family, the part that's already living. Mama notices when things aren't right with others, and she's very determined to move her family out of the ghetto, as Benita stated it. She even still gave Washer some money in which he didn't utilize it correctly. But by any means, Mama was bound to make it happen with or without a fight. Honestly, I would definitely recommend people to read this play. With me growing up on the south side of Chicago, I understood this play internally. Not only have they went through poverty during the 1950s, we still face poverty and racism today. My city has a lot of potential, but honestly, it's hard trying to change your lifestyle when you don't have it. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to live in poverty, or I want to be homeless, or I want to be socially separated from others just because the color of our skin or we don't look alike. It just happens. And most of the time, it's deeper than what it looks from the outside. So yes, I feel like everybody should read this play to view people's lifestyle from another person's perspective.